The time is 12:01, and I will call the roll for today's 706 regular Arizona Racing Commission meeting. Chairman Coolidge.
Present.
Commissioner Olson.
Present.
Commissioner York.
Present.
Commissioner French-Contreras. I'm not hearing Ms. French-Contreras. Would you like to wait, Commissioner or Chairman Coolidge, or would you like to begin the meeting?
Let's go ahead and begin. She can announce herself when she gets here. I have a hard stop, so let's get going. I'll go ahead and call to order the 706 Arizona Racing Commission meeting of December 15th, 2022. Rolling down, I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I'm in a bit of a time crunch on this. I've also received some feedback as far as this meeting has gone and the timeline behind it. I hope and request that everyone understand that as commissioners ourselves, we have real jobs. This is more of a volunteer spot than it is anything else, and we do this out of the goodness of our hearts. So we're trying to make do as much as we can and make sure that we attend as many meetings as humanly possible. So that said, I'm going to ask that we jump down to B4, the simulcast agreements pursuant to ARS 5-112U with Arizona Downs. Mr. Duncan, I know I'm dropping you on this quickly, but anything that I'm not seeing here?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, no, there is no updates on that. Everything's been turned in and reviewed. So there is no updates on those.
I'm just looking through.
Mr. Chair, pardon to interrupt. Commissioner French-Contreras has joined. I just want to make sure she announces herself.
Yes, this is Candace French-Contreras. Thank you, Max.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner, we're on B4. I'm going to push the B1 through 3 to the end of the meeting.
Okay, great.
Any questions or comments from my commissioners?
No.
Otherwise, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, I said no.
Oh, got it. I'll move that we approve Arizona Downs 1 through 9.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chairman Coolidge and a second by Commissioner Olson. I will call the roll. Chairman Coolidge.
Yes.
Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Commissioner York.
Yes.
And Commissioner French-Contreras.
I'll abstain.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Looks like I missed a request to speak here. Mr. Gorey, I see that you and Mr. Nolan have signed up to speak on item B3. Oh, yeah, you are signed up on B4. Do you still wish to speak?
Yes, sir. Chairman Coolidge, Commissioners. I just wanted to bring up that I think it was in January, February, and Mr. Chair, you may remember this. Dave Johnson from Turf Paradise had a great idea that at the beginning of the year, the tracks submit all the signals that they're going to import or export for that year. They pretty much know 95%. And it was then told to the department to look into how we could do this. And we're coming up on another January, February, and nothing has been done. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Drop down to 4B. Mr. Duncan, any updates other than that are in our packet for Turf Paradise?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, there is no updates on items B4, B1 through 10.
Chair, if I may.
Ma'am.
I just need to abstain from item 4B10. So if we could do it in 2 votes, that would be great.
No problem. Any other actions from my commissioners?
No. No, Chair, I'm good.
I'll move that we approve Turf Paradises 1 through 3.
I'll second that motion.
I think you have a motion by Commissioner or Chairman Coolidge and a second by Commissioner French-Contreras. I will call the roll. Commissioner or Chair Coolidge.
Actually, yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Can you clarify which items this is for? I think I misheard.
This is for 4B 1 through 3. You're abstaining from 4 through 10, correct?
No, I'm sorry. I'm abstaining from just item 10. So 1 through 9 is good to go.
Oh,
My apologies. That was confusing on my part.
let me go ahead and amend my motion, Mr. Secretary. Let's go ahead and I'll move that we have Paradise as 1 through 9.
Thank you. I have a motion,
This is-
an amended motion by Chairman Coolidge and a second by Commissioner French Contreras to approve items B, 4B 1 through 9. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner Olson,
Yes.
and Commissioner York.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes.
I'll also move that we approve Turf Paradise's Los Alamitos.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner York. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Abstain.
Thank you. Item B 410 has been approved.
Thank you. We'll drop down to 5A before I jump into that. I think we're good here. 5A, the Simulcast Horseracing import signals pursuant to IHA Section 3004A3, Arizona Downs 1 through 9. Mr. Duncan, any additions besides what we just approved?
There's no additions, Mr. Chairman. Items B5A 1 through 9 for Arizona Downs, they're all still missing host horseman or host commission, but the division would recommend that you do approve them, conditionally approve them, and I will make sure that the permittees do turn in all missing documentation before they turn the signal on.
Great. Thank you, sir. Any other questions or concerns from my commissioners?
No.
No, I'm good.
None for me.
That said, I'll move that we conditionally approve Arizona Downs 1 through 9, provided that they supply the additional approvals as needed and submit those to the department. I'll also ask that the department approve under their circumstances, making sure that all of the items are in order.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chairman Coolidge and a second by Commissioner French Contreras to approve items, conditionally approve items 5A 1 through 9. I will call the roll. Chairman Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Dropping down to 5B, which is Turf Paradise. Same thing, Mr. Duncan.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Items 1 through 10 are either missing host horseman, HBPA, or host commission. And again, the division would recommend items 1 through 10 for turf be conditionally approved, pending all documentation being received by the permitting.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or concerns from my commissioners?
No, I'm good.
Commissioner Chair, just the same request with 2 votes.
Los Alamitos. Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'll make a motion that we conditionally approve 5B for 1 through 9, contingent on the fact that Turf Paradise provide the department with all prerequisite materials and leave it to the department to move forward so that the track does not see a delay.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chairman Coolidge and a second by Commissioner French Contreras to conditionally approve items B or 5B 1 through 9. I will call the roll. Chairman Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Great, thank you. We'll also move that we conditionally approve 5B for Turf Paradise Los Alamitos, provided that they provide all the subsequent documents to the department and leave it to the department to move their packet forward so they don't see the delay.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chairman Coolidge and a second by Commissioner York to conditionally approve item 5B10. I will call the roll. Chairman Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Abstain.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Jumping down to 6A for Rillito Park racetracks. Looks like pretty nice meet this year. Mr. Duncan, any additions we need to know about?
Mr. Chairman, may I be heard?
Please, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we have reached out to Rillito back a couple of months ago, asked them for their projections, revenue projections for the upcoming meet. We did get some initial projections. We've asked for some secondary financials, which we have received. They're still being reviewed. However, we recommend that the commission conditionally approve the race dates pending the full review of their projections. Things don't look too far off at this point. And we have Leroy Guessman that would like to speak on this matter regarding some agreements made between Rillito and HPPA.
Thank you, Director. Mr. Gassman, you have a couple of minutes for us?
Yes, Chairman Coolidge, thank you. Fellow commissioners, Leroy Guessman of the HPPA. I just want to say I was in Tucson last week, met with Mr. Van Buren and Mr. Ackley and Mr. Weiss. After many, many years of trying to sort out the first fund, we got everything sorted out. All the money's been reconciled and now in the trust account. And I also want to say we agreed on contract terms and are in the process of finalizing the contract. So everything's good to go with the HPPA as far as Rillito. Thank you.
Appreciate the input. Mr. Author, do you have something to add to Rillito's line item? Okay. That said, I'll move that we conditionally approve the Rillito Park racetrack request for approval 2023 race dates, provided that they supply all the prerequisite materials to the department and leave it to the department to move them forward so they don't see delay.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chairman Coolidge and a second by Commissioner French Contreras to approve item, I just missed the item. Item 4.6A. I will call the roll. Chairman Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Thank you. We'll jump back down to item C1, the track safety report. Looks like we have a fair amount of people signed up to speak here. Dr. Gale, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Yes, thank you, Chair Coolidge and Commissioners. I'm in the test barn. You might be able to see that. And we've begun races for today. I'll be fairly brief. Again, in the month of December here, we have lost 5 days of racing due to some track conditions. And also November 22nd, we ran one race and then the rest of the card was canceled. I think other folks are going to be addressing that. We remain right about the same as far as our fatality rate per 1,000. 2.68 is just a little bit less than the 2.72 it had been. Here at Turf Paradise, since the track has opened to training, we have had a total of 9 horse fatalities. 6 of those were due to illness or non-track injuries, backside injuries. 1 was due to a training injury, and then 2 others were injuries sustained during racing. The one thing that I will contribute to the discussion about the track condition, and I've discussed with a number of folks, there's always a balance between the surface being too hard or too soft. There's got to be somewhere in between that's mostly pretty good. And at this time, we're seeing more of the soft tissue suspensory type injuries. And this it reflects the depth of the track. Again, we haven't seen that many injuries in terms of big bone fractures, but there have been a number of folks that have seen some small sesamoid fractures. These are not non-recoverable injuries. These are injuries that the horse can recover from, but may not return to racing. That's one area where we are a little bit, we don't get as much information. Those horses that maybe get injured and then just don't ever come back to race, go on to other things. They can go on to other things, but the injury has shortened their racing career. It's something that I talked with the track vet, Dr. Butler, about today. And again, it's something that going forward, perhaps we can do a little better job of getting an idea of how many horses are what's the attrition rate for horses leaving racing due to injury, but they didn't wind up having to be euthanized. I'm happy to take any questions. I see Commissioner York. You might have a question.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Gale. I don't know if this question is appropriate for you, but if it isn't, you can tell me who could answer it. Who makes the decision to cancel the races, and what decision criteria are used to make that decision?
That might be better directed to Turf Paradise management or just any track management. They would be able to explain that process to you better. I'm not involved in those decisions. I will just say that.
Okay. Is there anyone else that could answer that question then from Turf or the department?
I can usually answer. This is Steve Wood. I'm the consultant, and it's usually made by Vincent Francia at the request of the jockeys.
And what decision criteria are used to make that decision?
They generally will walk out and look or walk around it, and if they deem that it isn't as safe as they'd like, they will not want to continue that day.
Okay.
Commissioner, if I could, this is Vincent Francia
Sure.
from Turf Place. The decision to cancel is made by me, and the decision always comes down to one thing, and that is the safety of the horses and the riders. And if I cannot ensure that safety out on the racetrack, then I issue the cancellation order. So there is no other person. That responsibility lies on my desk and on no other. But the standard which I use is, can I ensure that the racetrack surface, and primarily the main track surface, is safe enough for the riders and horses?
Okay, thank you.
So this is Commissioner French Contreras. So the cancellations were due to rain?
A couple of the cancellations was affected by previous rains. Other cancellations involved rain that was approaching, and there wasn't enough time to get things done in order to assure safety. For example, when we anticipate rain, we monitor the weather monitors very closely. And if we see it coming in and we're at 40% or above and the storm is approaching, we will rush to seal the track if it's on a race day. If it's already started raining while the program is in progress, it starts to rain. Once it rains, you can't seal a track, float it. And if those things are not done in a timely fashion, it can result in a cancellation.
So what, can you explain to me what you mean by sealing the track? Because I've seen races run on what they call sloppy tracks, muddy, wet tracks. So
Yes.
what's the difference?
Well, the two have something in common. A sloppy track has been sealed, and that's what they are running on. The process in sealing a track, we have a what's called a 32 wheel packer, and it's kind of a rectangular big device that we purchased a year ago from a manufacturer in Kentucky, and it has a number of advantages. One, it seals things quite firmly, and it does it quickly because that's part of it. So once that comes out, once the track is sealed, and if it rains and the track becomes sloppy, it's still safe to race on, and it's safe to race on because it has been sealed. But once it rains, then a track cannot use the wheel packer. You have to rely on floats, and floats will press the dirt down. It will compact it, but not as much as the wheel packer will.
Just a follow-up question to Mr. Francia. So the days that were noted, the 5 days of full racing and the 1 day where only one race happened and the rest of the card was canceled, that was all due to weather?
It's due to the influence of weather or not having enough time to get something done. The one race day that we canceled, for example, a storm was approaching. We had a time 45 away from the racetrack, and the first race going to post, which was a quarter horse race. And our thinking was get the quarter horse race to the and off, and then seal the track, and would have been fine. But the storm moved, and after the quarter, the game actually started to rain. Now it was too late to seal the track.
And is this normal? What I mean by that is to have this many canceled days in such a short amount of time. I know we've had a little bit more rain than usual, but is this typical that we would cancel due to weather?
No, I would not accept it as normal. We may have a couple of days out the year that we cancel due to weather. But again, it's something when there's a process we go through. It's not just me out there in the track by myself. There's jockeys are always out there. Horsemen, the HPPA is represented. And it's a decision we confer about, but I'm the only one that makes the decision because I'm the only one that can cancel the races. Again, the responsibility is mine, and if I err, it's because I cannot ensure that the track is, that I feel that it's safe enough to have the horses and riders out there. The responsibility is mine, Commissioner, even though I have other people out there giving their input, which is essential, we're all part of the same sport, the same industry. The responsibility lies with me.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Commissioner.
Dr. Gale, I see your hand raised, and Commissioner French, you still have yours up, or is that a new request?
That's a new one, Chairman.
If you don't mind, let's hear Dr. Gale, and then we'll jump to you.
Sure.
Just to note, there were 6 days total that either had partial cards canceled or totally canceled. 11/22 was the first date. That day was a clear day. The remainder in December, it would be December 3rd, 5, 6, 7, and 12. Those were due to rain, wet track.
And if I could add to what Dr. Gale is saying, the one day that was canceled that was not weather related was due to the jockeys brought to my attention of a unevenness or a strip on the backstretch of the racetrack. And so I went back there, and indeed there was this strip, and I didn't feel it wasn't something that could be remediated quickly. It was something that was going to take track maintenance, getting in there and working the track. Again, it had to do with the safety of the jockeys. It was a strip in the middle of the backstretch. It was about 6 inches wide. And even though the horses generally don't run out that far, there's still, when you have a field of horses, a large field of horses, some are naturally probably going to be pushed to the outside and would run that far out, thus putting them in a situation which is not safe. And that's the reason why I canceled the races on that day.
Let's get to the real point. It's Arizona. Races should never be canceled.
Mr. Yother, if you're not called upon, please don't speak. Mr. Yother, you're on mute, sir. Mr. Yother. If you can hear me, you're on mute. While we're waiting for him on those technical difficulties, Mr. Nolan, do you have something you need to add on this?
Yes, Commissioner. Thank you very much. I'll be very brief. I've been here in this state 30 years. I find it erroneous that Mr. Francia says that he unilaterally has the authority. Years in the past, when this came to situation, it was a panel of 3, a representative of jockeys, it was a representative of horsemen, and it was a representative of management. No one unilaterally could do this without the others. Now that must have changed, because that was set in policy by a directive by the director of the department, and the commission was aware of it. The other thing is safety concerns concerning why they can't get it open on time. Last year, they boasted about 3 new John Deere tractors. They have 2 very old internationals that have been band-aided fixed. They talk about Harrows that have been band-aided again, and they need new equipment, and there's a refusal to get so. The fact is they don't have proper equipment, proper help, and the policy that was set in the past was a panel of 3, 2 had to make the decisions. And I wanted to make sure you knew that that was an option. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioners, this is Daryl here, Western Regional Manager for the Jockeys Guild. Can I talk? Can I chime in here?
Briefly, sir.
Well, the riders, we have guild reps that meet with management in the mornings when there's an issue with the racetrack, and there are protocols to be followed. And normally, management, when they know it's unsafe, they make the call. Management, just because they, but it is like Mr. Nolan stated. Usually, it's between the horsemen. They're all meeting, deciding, and what was happening when they first canceled. Mother Nature is, she played a big part in this when the rain seeped into the racetrack and it got all uneven. But at the same time, the riders, they want to ride as fearless as they are and courageous. No one wins when you cancel racing. But for safety issues, it's a must if it's not safe. And they felt that it was uneven and unsafe from the rain and what had transpired. But the machinery, because we give management plenty of time to, we try to take care of the racetrack if they can. But in my understanding, the machinery that they have at Turf Paradise. They have enough machinery now, but there's always problems with things breaking down or harrows. So that's that's part of the problem, I believe. And I'll take questions from any of the commissioners if they need any clarification on things.
I do have a question, if I may, Please pronounce your last name, Daryl, for me again.
It's Hare, Daryl Hare.
Okay. So in your opinion, are you saying that if the equipment were properly running, or I don't want to misconstrue this, but if there was either properly running equipment or enough equipment, that it would not have to be canceled due to weather? So I'm struggling with, is the issue weather or is the issue equipment? Because I'm hearing things that are kind of from both sides.
Yes, the weather played a big role, but equipment is so important that you have the right harrows or the right floats, just that are all working. And instead of having one tractor that, or because there's only two tractors working, or because one's broke down, the problem. One of the hitches on the tractor and floats, it's so important to have backup. It's one thing to have the right number of tractors or harrows, but you have to have the right equipment. And I think we've had an issue there with not having the proper equipment to match. Like you got to have, for instance, they have 4 harrows, but two are old and 2 are new. And you need like 3 harrows to do it right, and one of them's uneven. So you need the right equipment at all times, right machinery, because racetracks throughout the country have an issue with tractors breaking down or water trucks, because they go all the time. They're always working, but they have something when it does happen right away. So it is an issue because all this equipment's old, and it's so important to have the right machinery at disposal.
This is Jerry Sims. Can I say something, please?
Go ahead, Mr. Sims.
I'd like Steve Woods to respond because there's being a picture painted that's not accurate. I bought a dozen pieces of new equipment in the last 12 months, probably in the last 8 months, 10 months, and we have very adequate equipment. We had before the season started, we had the diesel company come out and go through every piece of our equipment. 5 or 6 days ago, we had John Deere out to look at our tractors and found and anything that needed to be done was done. So what Daryl Hare had said yesterday, he said today that we have enough equipment, and then I'll speak to the harrows, have enough equipment, but he felt we didn't have, if something broke down, we didn't have it. And I said, we haven't had that problem, but on 1 day's notice, I can get a tractor there and rent one if I need it. But we have more than enough. The harrow issue came up, and we have 2 harrows that were new. We had them made in New Mexico, and one that is fine, but and does match for 3. We're also trying, Steve Woods is, and he'll speak to it in a moment, to get a couple from Sacramento that would also be help to us. If it was just, and one other thing that's important to note is if we need something, I'll have it there. We have not had a lack of equipment. We have not had a lack of me spending money to do whatever it takes. So, and the horsemen just to tell you, in our contract, they require that we have Steve Wood as a consultant because everybody knows that he's a real expert in the industry. And so he's been out there and been on the equipment and dealing with these things. So, Mr. Wood, if you could explain from your perspective about our equipment.
I'm going to be brutally honest, and you guys will all probably be mad. I mean, when this is over, we have adequate equipment as long as it runs. Now, wait a second. We are incredibly hard on this stuff because it runs in the morning and in the afternoon and half the night, 7 days a week. It's equipment that's not brand new. That doesn't mean it's not adequate, but we run it hard. A hose breaks, a tire breaks, things happen to it, which happen to every facility in the world. Okay, we run four harrows and 4 tractors during the breaks. We have 2 breaks at my request because the breaks are supposed to reduce fatalities and injuries by a huge 40%. Very controversial. People don't like it because it cuts into their training. And by the way, the information that I have gotten, we are down fatality-wise this year to last year significantly. Last year when I came as a consultant. I couldn't walk through, and Mr. Gismer and Mr. Leroy will also verify this. We had horses fracturing sesamoids or cannon bones every other day. This was last year, okay? And Mr. Sims and Mr. Francia asked me if I could design something that would help the fractures, which we have done, because our fractures are down a lot. Now, it has an offside to that. The offside is if you make it softer, you make horses struggle a little bit. You make them struggle, and it does make them sore behind, and you will have more suspensions, more tendons on some horses. It's a trade-off. It's a real similar to AstroTurf or natural turf. Every football player that has played in football would prefer natural turf. It's not as hard, on them. So those are the kind of the similarities. We have kept it softer, and yes, it does increase soft tissue some. It also reduces fatalities by a lot. Up to this point, you haven't had a fatality that I'm aware of. Now, I'm not there every day, so I may be off. You haven't had a fatality during the races, which created a wreck, which hurt somebody. And in my business or our business, as far as I'm concerned, the one thing everybody needs to reduce is a horse breaking his leg off and dying. That's not good, not for anybody, not now, not ever, never has been, never will be, ever. We got a report back from Mick Peterson, who works for HISA, who's very nationally known, and his report was very favorable. You guys should all read it. The sonar radars, the ground penetrating radar, and the depths and all that was spoke about in his report. It was also spoke about that the elevation is a little higher than it should be, and that's true. We planned in May to take about 1.5 foot of dirt off and survey it and all that stuff. We didn't have time in September to do it. Would it help? Probably some. My own opinion, I don't think that's causing horses to pull suspensories or bow. More than likely, it's because we carry a significant amount of cushion. We carry 3 1/4. Now, in our defense, all the tracks back east, New York, Gulfstream, all of them carry 3 1/2 to 3 3/4. So we're within the realm of depth. The West Coast here, we carry 2 3/4. This is inches. Like I say, the one thing that all of us in this business need to reduce the horses breaking their legs off. that has been a success. Have we gone a little too far? And I would think that's probably true. We've made the adjustments since then. Anyways, getting back to the harrows, you have 2 brand new harrows that work really, really well. They're alongside of another harrow that we retrofitted, and it works not as well as the other one. And the outside harrow is the older, okay? Kind of like a new car. New car works better. New harrows work better. We've researched the part of having some made. You can't get them made quickly. There's no way you're going to get them now. You're not going to do anything during Christmas. It's going to be April or May before they get made. The people who made the last ones are out of business. So I'm trying to locate harrows that we can borrow that are similar, that are better than the third and fourth harrow we have. Third and fourth harrow don't have the same amount of teeth in it. They're not quite as good as the inside part. Now that's on the outer portion of the track, which that matters also, but not quite as important as the rest. We have 3 water trucks. All 3 of them run pretty well. I've got a brand new grader, but every day I can promise you, we run this stuff incredibly hard. Every day something's going to break. It's just the way it is. Brand new stuff. I work at California Authority Racing Fairs in California. We have brand new tractors. They were $400,000. Every day, out of the 6 that we have, a sensor goes out, a hose breaks. The hoses are pressurized, so you have to call a guy in to come work on them. Right now, you don't have a good diesel mechanic on Turf Paradise, so we have to call a guy in to come fix it. Most places don't have a good diesel mechanic on the grounds because it's just kind of the way it is. It's not something irregular for Turf Paradise. Most people have to call in a regular guy to come fix stuff. With that being said, if there's any questions, fire away. Trying to cover everything. The Mick Peterson report was favorable, wasn't perfect, did show some discrepancies. The elevation of the track has to come down. He found some different depths of the cushion. That's coming from the harrow, different in say 30%, 30% different on the outside portion, which isn't as critical, but it still matters. Horses still do get out there. If you guys have any questions, I have a whole, this is my hobby. I own race horses, so I have to keep working because none of them can run. They get hurt. I've had horses that are the most fragile animals in the world. I had 2 horses that were weanlings. I went home at night, everything was fine. They came back the next day, they broke their shoulder. They're an accident waiting to happen. With that being said, we do everything in our power that's known to man. We added a lot of material in October, added 1,000 yards of bark and I think 1,500 tons of sand to it. With that being said, if you guys have questions, there are tractors he has, I can guarantee you, with all my heart, if you run them every day, they're going to break.
Thank
the
you
way
much.
it is. Okay.
Commissioner Contreras or Commissioner York, do you have any further questions?
I do. This is Candace. Was I correct in hearing that Dr. Gale said there's been 9 fatalities at Turf since it opened this season?
Wait. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm speaking out of turn. I don't think those are track related.
There have been 3 fatalities on the track, 1 during training in October, and 2 racing fatalities with leg injuries, broken legs, toward the end of November.
And that's with
So
five
that's
5 to 6 days of races canceled?
We've not had any racing well, I can't say that now, but prior to today, there hadn't been any racing fatalities in the month of December, which again, we've missed about half of the race days.
And when you do your average, that of the fatalities or the losses, you take that into consideration, how many days they ran versus how many losses, the 2.68?
Yeah, that 2.68 is the rate of how many fatalities per 1,000 horses that actually leave the starting gate.
Okay.
And again, our rate has been pretty steady around 2.6 in the last 12 months or the last 18 months. And again, the national average is closer to 1.4.
Okay, thank you. And I see a two-pronged problem, because what I'm hearing is somebody saying that there was a policy set by the commission in the past that a panel of various individuals decided or opined if a track should be closed, with the general manager making the final decision. But it's irrelevant if the track isn't safe. It doesn't matter if a panel decides or not. It's the safety of the horses that are being threatened, and that's my biggest concern at this point. I'm not hearing that that's really been resolved. I don't understand why a horse can't run on a sloppy track unless the track, there's something going on. It's just not adding up to me.
They can, Commissioner, and this is Steve Wood, they can run on a sealed track, and they do run on a sealed track. The issue is how it was sealed. If it was not sealed with almost every square inch run over with a wobble wheel, water will get in and soften in areas. Or if you leave a tire track, water will soften that. That makes it a little uneven. But they run on sealed tracks all over the world, or all over the United States. All the tracks back east are sealed with a wobble wheel, same one we have.
Mm-hmm.
They have limestone bases. So their bases don't get as firm as ours on the western half of the United States. But we all run on sealed tracks. You'd never run if you didn't seal it.
Does Turf Paradise have input from the jockeys and trainers before they close a track, or is it just simply the general manager that makes that decision?
Well, this is Daryl here with the Jockeys Guild. The Jockeys Guild rep work close with management, and now with Steve Wood, George Lopez, to explain if there's, if there's unevenness with the racetrack or something wrong. They talk and they try to, adjust it as they go along, whether there's trouble with the herald or, they work with management right along. And Steve, maybe you can elaborate on the problem with Turf Paradise with the drainage, because it appears it's going to be an ongoing situation, that the track's not draining properly on the inside, because the material's grown, there's so much material that each time it rains now, you have to unclog those drainage ditches. And until that's addressed, it's going to be an ongoing problem. Is that correct?
The problem, you guys, is that the dirt.
If I could interject to answer your question directly, Commissioner. When we know that we're looking at a situation of climate weather, rain coming in, the procedure is that we, meaning myself, BPA, trainers, jockeys, we meet at 7:00 in the race. If we need to walk the track, we do that. Whatever needs to be done. The reason why we do it early in the morning is because in the event of cancellation, we want early enough so that the trainers are not giving Lasix shots to the horses. And yet all the input is listened to and evaluated. And it's generally agreed upon by the three groups, that is the jockeys, the horsemen, and management. When I say I issue the order for cancellation, it's not, first of all, it's not something I take lightly because it has repercussions, but it's only done after input with the other two groups.
All right, thank you.
For the record, Chair Coolidge had to leave, so as Vice Chair, I'll be taking over the leading of the meeting. Commissioner York, do you have an additional question, or have all your questions been answered?
Obviously, there's many more people that would like to speak. I think my question is fundamental because I found in these meetings that we have some really good discussion, but I don't know, and the same is the case with this particular topic, and it's actually several topics. What do we hope to happen after this discussion? I don't think we should just discuss. So can someone tell me what is the point? What are we trying to fix or advance?
Well,
Jerry Sims selling the track would help. Jerry Sims selling the track.
Commissioner,
and so we do need to.
Are people like identified that are talking so we know who says something like that or anything else? This is Jerry Sims. Are people identify themselves, or is this just a free for all?
Mr. Sims, thank you. Please mute your mics and please only speak when called upon. For the benefit of the group, can whoever interjected please identify yourself so that everyone on the call knows who it was?
Mr. or Mrs. Commissioner, whoever's in charge now. This is Lloyd Yoke with the Arizona Quarter Racing Association President and Vice President of HBPA. May I speak now?
Thank you, sir. We have a few other in line. We just want to identify who is speaking.
Well, I was in line as well, but I can't get the Zoom meeting to work, so I had to call in on the phone. I'm on the phone. I wanted to speak a half hour ago, but I've not had an opportunity to do because it doesn't work. I put a call in to Mr. Hartgraves, and I've been able to figure out why I don't get notifications of the meeting and why I can't get on when I do get notifications.
All right, thank you, sir. Just one moment. I would like to remind my fellow commissioners in the department that this is an informational item, so this is not something we can vote or take action on today. Just something to keep in mind while we move forward. Sir, you have 3 minutes to speak, and if Mr. Hartgraves, if you could put the timer on, that would be great.
Is that for me, Lloyd Yoker?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to address the issue. First of all, you can have all kinds of issues and problems at a racetrack, but if you don't have the right and enough of the equipment and it's not operable, I mean, my understanding was a week ago, or maybe less than that Turf Paradise has 4 tractors. One is completely inoperable. 3 are operable, but one of those is out. So you got 2 tractors. It takes 3 tractors to run a racetrack. They say that they, at the last minute and 7 o'clock in the morning, they make a decision on whether the weather is good enough or not good enough to run that day. So wouldn't it make sense? It makes sense to me that they have a backup tractor that management stated that they didn't have time to get the track ready, so they had to cancel. Well, if they had the right equipment and enough of it, they would be able to get the tractor, the track fixed so they could run on a sealed track or an open track, but they don't have time to do it because they don't have enough tractors to pull and run the equipment. If anybody ever stopped and looked at Oakline in Arkansas or Charlestown in West Virginia, they got inclement days every day. They don't miss races. They don't close for weather. It's just the fact that we're not prepared for what we need. And the composition of the ground here in Arizona as everybody knows, it doesn't absorb water. Water lays on top of it. So you've got to get a way to get it off that track. That's just some of the frustration I have, along with the fact that I can't get into a meeting. I would like to recommend or ask for a face-to-face with a department, face-to-face, where we sit down with management, trainers, jockeys, and whoever needs to be invited, and we sit down and we try to work through these issues that can be handled. I don't know the answer other than the fact that my main concern is we don't have the right enough of equipment to do the track. If I was running the track, I'd have a backup tractor because I think one of the managements just said that it takes a day to get a backup if they have to go outside to rent it. Well, you're making that call at 7 o'clock in the morning. That means that race is canceled. No matter what you do, you can get back up and get the problem fixed, but you look at the day of racing. Anyway, I thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you,
This
sir.
is Jerry Sims. May I respond? Chairman, can I respond just quickly?
Mr. Sims, I'm going to let you respond, but we do have quite a few people with their hands raised, so I'm going to write you down and we're going to come back to you. Mr. Johnson, I see that your hand is raised. Do you still wish to speak?
Sorry, that was from a previous question.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nolan, I see your hand is raised. Do you still wish to speak?
Yes, I'd like to just address Commissioner York. Please forward this to. Thank you. Please forward this to an action item. Hold them accountable with deadlines. It must be held accountable, and you have the ability to sanction if not. But please, action items is the only way that something can be ordered and then held accountable. And if not done accountable, sanction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Mr. Goray, would you still like to speak?
Looks like he lowered his hand, Vice Chair Olson.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sims.
No, I'm sorry. I hit the wrong button.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Goray, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Olson. I just want to commend Commissioner York and French Contreras. You have been driving in some questions here today. I do believe that this is an item that should not be an information report. It needs to be added to action because this has been ongoing for 11 years. As we call it here in Arizona racing, it's Groundhog Day. It's again, problems at Turf Paradise. And I would also encourage the commissioners to direct the department to get you badges, and you go back there on the Turf Paradise and talk to the people, the men and women picking up poop, training horses, riding the horses, start having private one-on-one conversations with them. You will get the answers, not the smoke that's been blown here recently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goray. My apologies, Mr. Sims. Your turn now. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, there's a lot of misinformation coming out here because we do have enough equipment and we have enough good equipment. John Deere was there the other day. We have, I think, Steve Woods will respond with the count, but I know we have 3 really good operating John Deere's, big John Deere's tractors. And if we need anything, and I know we have a backup, we have other tractors, but those in particular, well, one of the problems was they were being driven too fast in the higher gear. And John Deere explained that in gear 15, that they were going too fast. They need to be at about 7 miles an hour, not 25 miles an hour, or they'll burn up transmissions and engines. And again, Steve Wood can speak to that. But to talk about sanctions and action items, this is a private business. And if I need to do something and I'm told that we need it, there's never a time when Director Casillas asks me for anything and I turn him down. It just doesn't happen. So if I know that we have a problem in equipment, which, that's just not what I'm told is the case. And in fact, to keep everybody happy and the jockeys and everybody safe, we were taking the 2 Harrows, they're the new ones, and running them twice around so that they were 100% being used with the same harrow. Because when you use a different harrow, I understand there can be a problem. Even though we have a third harrow now that Steve Wood blessed and said is fine, and that gets us out with the width that we need. So this pouring on of Turf Paradise not having the equipment and it not being up to snuff and all this kind of stuff is just not accurate. It's just not accurate. It's a bunch of things to blame, but it's just not accurate. Steve, if you would, and thank you for giving me the time, Chairman and Commissioners, would you address that and explain? Everyone knows you're not sugarcoating for us, so please.
This is Steve Wood. Commissioners, thank you for having me. Nobody, Mr. Sims, drives 25 miles an hour with a harrow. The harrow would fall apart. It'll bounce so bad. That's not true. We try to drive 6.1 miles an hour, 5.8. If you go 7 miles an hour with any harrow, it doesn't do a good job. It doesn't knock the track out well. So that's not something we like to do, because I can make it look good, but it doesn't do a good job. It's kind of like combing your hair with really, really fast. You have to go reasonably slow in order for the harrow to knock out the track and fill in the footprint with the back row. So to go 2 rounds with 2 harrows makes things look. Hello?
That's the conclusion of the 3 minutes there. I do see that Commissioner French Contreras has had her hand raised for a while. If you could just finish your thought, and then I'd like to turn it over to the Commissioner.
Steve, if you'd explain about the amount of tractors we have.
Well, if we're going to change to another topic, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner French Contreras.
Okay.
Commissioner? Did we lose Commissioner French Contreras? Is she still here?
Sorry about that. Vice Chair Olson, thank you. It sounds like there's a lot of opinions, thoughts on what's going on here, and we could talk about it all afternoon. And I appreciate everybody's input, but I'd like to actually put this in the forefront, and I'd like to make a motion to set this as an agenda item for our next meeting to discuss and possibly act on the equipment and turf conditions at Turf Paradise. And I'd urge those of interest to submit written information to us to look at and make a more thorough, informed decision and possible action at our next meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner French Contreras. I invite the Assistant Attorney General to chime in here, but I do believe, because it's an information report, we are not able to vote or take any action at this time. But I think this is something we could put on the agenda during that item. But Assistant Attorney General.
You can simply let Mr. Hargraves know that it should be put on the next agenda. A motion is not necessary.
Thank you, Attorney Gensock. I withdraw my motion, and Max, I ask that matter be put on the agenda as an action item at the next meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you to my fellow commissioners and everyone for the helpful and productive discussion today. I'd like to move to the next agenda item C2, budget reports. Director Casillas.
Yes, Chairman Olson and Commissioners. Currently, the department is lacking our chief financial officer, and we don't have a comptroller. However, looking at some of the budget information earlier this morning, the racing budget is intact. There's no concerns at this time.
Thank you. Any questions from my fellow commissioners? Commissioner York?
Yes, Director Casillas, do you have a timeline for filling those new positions or those vacated positions?
They announced the position. They're currently scheduling interviews and
I'm sorry.
shouldn't be too far off.
Okay. As a follow-up to that question, as a new commissioner, and I don't know if you're in a position to do this now or you need to wait until the positions are filled, but I sure would like a real deep dive on the budget. I don't have visibility into it, don't really understand it, would really like to understand sources of revenue, where the money's spent, and it's not coming through at these meetings. So would that be possible?
It would be possible, but it's going to take a little time to get the new comptroller in place and get those reports in place for you.
Okay, so I should circle back with you then after the new comptroller is in place?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner York. Moving to agenda item C3, report on International Horse Racing Integrity Act. Mr. Guessman.
Yes, Vice Chairman Olson and Commissioners, Leroy Guessman with the National HBPA. I'll try and be brief here. As you know, there are currently 3 lawsuits filed against HISA. One being I'm going to refer to case 1 is the National HBPA lawsuit, which is all the HBPA affiliates around the United States has filed. They had a hearing in the 5th District Court. The 5th District Court judges ruled in the appeal court of the 5th District. They ruled that HISA is unconstitutional. Then they have given them till January 10th to continue operating and to respond to the ruling. Case 2 is the state of Oklahoma and the state of West Virginia. They had hearings last Wednesday. And from what I heard in the 6th District Court, which is in Kentucky, I believe, and what I heard is that the hearings did not go well for the HISA. The attorneys for Oklahoma and West Virginia and the other states listed in that lawsuit felt very positive. In the 3rd case, which was the Louisiana state of Louisiana, the Louisiana HBPA, the Jockeys Guild, as you remember, they were the first one to get a stay on HISA, which was later dismissed. And since then, there's several HBPA affiliates, along with several racetracks, which include Turf Paradise and the Arizona HBPA, asked to be intervened in the case. That case is currently, we have now asked to be added to the case. And we have added that whatever ruling comes from this appeal court in the 5th District for this case, cover the entire nation, not just the district. So that's kind of where the 3 lawsuits are. The big concern all of us have that are involved in the lawsuits right now is there's a big spending bill coming up in Congress at the end of the year that has to be passed, just like the COVID legislation had to be passed. And we're afraid Mr. McConnell might stick something in there to make HISA more palatable for the courts. So we're asking everybody, we have some information in our office, but we're asking everybody to write into the Arizona state's U.S. senators and state U.S. representatives and ask them to be on the lookout for this language and to vote against it. Any questions? I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Guessman. Commissioners, any questions for the report?
I have a question.
Commissioners, only at this moment. Thank you.
Well, Miss Olson, I was on the list to talk on C1, and you skipped right over me.
My apologies, sir. I did not see you on that list.
Bob Hutton, yeah. If you want to come back to me, that's fine.
Okay, and what's your name?
Bob Hutton, I'm the president of the Arizona HPPA.
Bob, you don't have no stroke.
Thank you.
Pardon me?
So Commissioner York?
Oh, no, I'm good. Do I have my hand up?
Wonderful.
Sorry, I don't have any questions for Mr. Gussman.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We can move back to agenda item C1. For Mr. Hutton, my apologies. I did not see your hand raised.
Oh, I'm on the agenda, but Bob Hutton, Arizona HPPA. If Steve Woods is still available, I'd like to ask him a couple questions. Steve, are you still on the line? He appears not to be. Okay. So the first thing I would do is I would ask the commissioners, all the commissioners, take the time and read the report dated October 22nd that Brian Duncan, the ADG enforcement manager, put together as far as the equipment last year. I think it will give you some insight on how this has been an ongoing problem. The horsemen are frustrated, right? Because when they can't race, they can't make any money. And then they got issues as far as owners wanting to leave. It's hard to get owners for these people. They want to leave. They'll go somewhere else where they can race. And to get back to, we've had 6 days of canceled races, and with pretty good weather. We've had one day on the first Saturday that it was canceled, that it rained hard, but the track could have been sealed, and it wasn't. The trainers, they train their horses up to a race, so they're in peak physical condition. So they're led to the paddock on race day. The horsemen have already incurred costs, Lasix, other race days, preparations. All this money just piles on them, and then the opportunity to go ahead and race and not be able to run, it's unbelievable. But on the 3rd, when the races were canceled, we had owners coming from all over the country to watch their races, horses running the stakes races, and they were turned away. And they were turned away because of insufficient track equipment. They don't have the right equipment to go ahead if something breaks down, to pull the harrows, and it's just ongoing, and it's frustrating. And these people need to have a consistent racetrack that they can go ahead and race on. As far as the horsemen have enough to do without having to worry about the safety of the racing surface. They bring their horses to Turf Paradise with their main concern of having their horses ready to compete. When race days are canceled, it throws their training schedule out of whack. It also puts trainers on pins and needles with their owners to pay the bills.
Vice Chair, pardon to interrupt. Approximately 3 minutes.
Pardon? Okay. Can I continue?
Yeah, can you wrap it up in about 30 seconds to a minute?
Yeah, I can wrap it up for you. Okay. I'll skip some of the things that other people have brought up, but I think that the soft tissue injuries and things like that, I think Steve Woods was put in a weird spot that he had to go ahead and rip that track because we had all the catastrophic injuries last year. But I just wanted to be, due to the fact that we canceled those races, the horsemen, the HPPA at Turf Paradise paid everybody that entered a horse in those days $500 so they wouldn't lose their owners. The total amount of that bill is $197,000 for something that we did not cause. And that's what really irks me, that we're paying the price, as always, for things that were not our fault. And I would just, I'm going to close with this. The commission, if you look at 5-104, it says, prepare and adopt complete rules to govern the racing meetings that are required to protect and promote the safety and the welfare of the animals participating in the racing meeting, to protect and promote public health and proper conduct of racing and parimutuel wagering and any other matter pertaining to the proper conduct of racing within the state. It also says on F, the division may adopt rules pursuant to Title 41, Chapter 6 to carry out the purposes of this article, ensure the safety and integrity of racing in this state, and protect the public interest. The last thing I would ask is ask Mr. Casillas, because he's the one that has the numbers. Turf Paradise got money from the state and federal government for equipment, for safety reasons. Where is that money? Where was it spent? Why don't we have backup equipment? Why isn't the equipment capable of pulling harrows? All these questions need to be answered. If you have any questions for me, I'll take them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hutton.
Yeah, this is Jerry Sims. Can I make a response to that?
Mr. Sims, there's some other hands raised right now, so we'll get to you in just a moment.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Guessman, I see that your hand is raised. Is it in pertaining to C1?
Yes, it is. While we were all sitting here discussing C1, I unfortunately have to report we had another fatality on the racetrack. And races and that horse were delayed getting off the racetrack because the tractor that pulls the horse ambulance would not run. It took 20 minutes to get the horse off the track, which now has delayed races by about 60 minutes. So anyway, I just wanted to report that. It's unfortunate, but again, it's just equipment at turf not operating correctly has caused quite a problem. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Guessman. Mr. Sims, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, what I plan to do is have Steve Wood, who everybody respects, write a report on our equipment and have it to you folks and the commissioners so that you can take a look at it and be able to digest it in time for this next meeting. I think it's important to note, and we're all sorry for any horses that wouldn't that had a problem or in this case broke down. Last week, I will tell you that the jocks didn't, I don't mean to point fingers, but since it's being pointed at me, I have to defend myself. We had jockeys that did not want to race. We had a situation where on Thursday, last Thursday, Mr. Mayor, my general manager, decided that he shouldn't be the one the last period of time, last few days, because he was what he called a lightning rod. So Robbie, our racing secretary, went into the jocks room because they were, again, having problems. They didn't want to ride. Now, it's easy for someone to say, well, they didn't want to ride because of safety issues. But that has not been the issue. He went into that jocks room on Thursday and he was met with Mr. Hernandez and Mr. Lara, if I'm pronouncing his name right, yelling, "We're not racing today." And the trainers were rightfully upset. And, you know, I said to my general manager, why are we making these decisions as far as what the jocks are doing? They're hired by the trainers. Their bills are paid by the owners, but the trainers day to day hire them. And we had a wonderful situation where Bob Hutton and the HBPA said, "We're with you, Turf." That's what they told Mr. Mayor. "We're with you on this issue." And the trainers told the jockeys on that Thursday, "If you don't ride for me anymore," because they employ them and they have that right to make that decision. So they were satisfied on Thursday that track was safe, but the jocks still wouldn't. And so what Mr. Mayor did is what Robbie did is he said to them, the guys and ladies that don't want to run, you don't have to run. We don't want you to run if you don't think it's safe. But all the other ones did. And when they saw that move they made was not working, they decided they better ride. Or we would have lost Thursday also. And they explained they wanted to make
skills. Can I interject here?
No, just a minute. This is my time. You'll be.
No,
I'll be happy
we have several people signed up to speak. We can put you at the end of the list.
Okay, and I understand that Mr. Darrell's going to feel gee, it's not safe and it wasn't safe and it's not safe. All that is always easy to point to, but it was safe, and we didn't have any problems. And he was told, Robbie was told by those jocks that they have a point to make, and whatever their point is, whatever their issue is. But we did race.
Chair Olson, it's been approximately 3 minutes, just notifying you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear. But anyway, we will get you a report in writing for the commissioners on our equipment, and I think you'll see that it is adequate. And I will tell you, anytime we need a piece of equipment, I'll have it there in a day. I'll rent it and we'll have it there. But anyway, I'll let my time, thank you for the time to speak. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Sims, and we look forward to that report. Mr. Braddock, do you still wish to speak? You have 3 minutes. You're on mute. There you go.
Okay, is that better? Can you hear me now?
We can. Please proceed, sir.
Okay, thank you. So just for the record, I mean, of course, it is not for the likes of me, a mere humble track announcer, to in any way refute what Mr. Gore or Mr. Guessman have said. But being here at Turf Paradise and with the track 60 feet below me right in front of the winning line, I can assure you that both the horse ambulance and the jockey on the floor were tended to by the appropriate medical personnel in a very quick time following race number 2. And the accusation that we are 60 minutes behind right now, well, looking out from the booth here, the time on the tote board is 1:23. Post time for race 4 is scheduled at 1:27. Right now, it's to go off at 1:32. Now, I might be from England, and maybe time in America works differently, but to me, that's 5 minutes late, not 60 minutes late. And one does have to wonder why someone would be grandstanding such an event to make a point there when, in fact, they knew I was in the meeting. They knew I was up in the announcer's booth. They could have just given me a call and asked me. Anyone would think they're trying to make a situation look in the worst possible circumstances. Well, and I can't think why.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Braddock. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Gore, is your hand raised on this?
Yes, ma'am, it is. Thank you,
All right.
Chairman. I just wanted to bring up, if what we have heard, and I've heard it from 2 different sources, if there is a problem with the ambulance at Turf, the equine ambulance, per statute, the equine ambulance is to be inspected and approved by the department. And if it is not operational, they are not to be racing if they do not have an approved ambulance, equine ambulance. And second of all, when I said earlier that the commission should get badges and go speak to people on their own, and by people I would also mean the jocks, I can tell you for the record, when I was a commissioner, I had jockeys tell me that they had Mr. Jerry Sims in the jockey room threatening them if they did not run. So Jerry, you know, you can blow smoke, but the truth is the truth. You're running a dump. Thank you.
Again, I think we could be on this topic.
Jerry, mute your phone.
I think we could be on this topic for quite some time. There's a lot of important perspectives, but we do want to be mindful of everybody's time. So with that, I think we had one other person sign up to speak, and I'm sorry I didn't catch your name because it was some feedback, but the gentleman on the phone who was trying to speak earlier.
Vice Chair Olson, I believe that was Daryl Hare with the Jockeys Guild.
Oh, wonderful. Mr. Hare, if you could.
Yes. Yes, Commissioner. Thank you.
Lloyd Yota with the Quarter Horse Association. I'd like to speak as well.
Well, I just wanted to address what Mr. Sims had said, what transpired that Thursday in the jockeys room. That morning, I was contacted by the stewards at Turf Paradise, and they had observed the racetrack. And because Steve Woods had worked on it the 2 prior days, it had leveled. He got it straightened out. We thought it was entirely straightened out, except around the turns, it didn't dry out properly, and there's drainage problems there, and it's where they get clogged up, and manually they have to unclog them. There's nowhere for the water to go, so that's an issue at Turf Paradise, and that's what happened on Thursday. There were the stewards had said to me there were holes on the inside fence, and I wasn't there, of course, and they ended up being deep divots and soft spots because the track was still drying out. It had been worked on the previous couple of days. They had not raced, and still that Thursday, it was not quite, you know, the riders felt in the morning it was unsafe. So that's why it continued as the day went on. The racetrack got back. So just to clarify that, and management did come in the jockey's room, which normally that's not allowed when the riders are deciding if they're going to ride or not. And it wasn't not a good scene what happened. So that has to be addressed in the future. But you know, just getting back to having the right equipment at all times and doing the right thing. And when I think of horse ambulances, equine ambulances, most tracks.
Been on this meeting so long in my truck, I'm running out of battery.
Well, I just wanted to say that the horse ambulances, instead of having one at racetracks, I would think they should have two, because sometimes there's two horses that have injuries that need to be addressed right away, instead of waiting a half an hour and have a broken leg and waiting for another horse.
Hush.
That's things they need at Turf Paradise, a backup. So thanks for listening to me.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hare. And then the final speaker on this, the Quarter Horse Association.
Yes, ma'am. This is Lloyd Yotham, President of the Arizona Quarter Racing Association. Again, I would just like to, unfortunately, report what Mr. Guessman reported earlier. Second race today, a quarter horse broke down. The jockey is thought to have either a broken femur or pelvis, and it's all due to the condition of the racetrack. I understand that I don't want to get off in the weeds again. My point is, all the problems that we're having and all the things we've discussed today for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, it boils down to the fact that somebody needs to get in there. We need to sit down with a face-to-face meeting, which I'd like to request again, with the commission, the department, the management, and the trainers, and maybe even the owners, which I am, and face-to-face and address these issues, because this over-the-phone business doesn't get anywhere. It just falls by the wayside. But my point is, it all boils down to the equipment. Mr. Sims just said that he can get a replacement tractor within a day. Well, they're looking at the track this morning at 7 o'clock, and if they need a tractor and he can get it tomorrow, guess what? We're closed down for the day. It just makes sense. You got to have backup equipment if you've got only 2, maybe 3 tractors operating at a racetrack that runs more than any other state in the union. I mean, we run 5 days a week. Most of these other tracks run 3 or 4 days a week. They can afford to have some issues that we cannot afford. But I just want to bring that to your attention. And the problem boils down to equipment, the right equipment, workable equipment. I mean, you can have 4 tractors, but for 2 of them don't work, it doesn't mean anything. So what I'm asking is, if we could have a sit-down meeting face-to-face and discuss some of these issues and make some recommendations and hold the people to them, we might be better off in the future, but it's not going to be solved overnight. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you, sir. And thank you again to all those who've spoken on this topic today. Just to reiterate our request to the department to include this as an action item on our next meeting, and also for the director to reach out to begin coordinating on these conversations. Moving to agenda item C4, Permittee Reports, American Greyhound Racing. Arizona Downs.
Vice Commissioner Olson, commissioners, it's Tom Author. We don't really have much report. I do have one question though. The Los Alamitos was shown as a quarter horse meet approval. Is that what it was? Because
Department,
and secondly, we're not going to make an issue out of it, but we never received a contract from them, and we were the guys who were instrumental in getting that lined up. But Mr. Liebau, who runs that's a good guy, and I think that was just a glitch, so we're not going to fight it. But again, that looked like a quarter horse approval, and I don't know when that quarter horse meet is, but it's not now. So if somebody could run that, if somebody could run that down, we'd appreciate that. But we're, whatever. Secondly, I did want to announce that we have the word from Monarch that they will be sending in the Santa Anita and the Gulfstream signal. So we're just waiting for the paperwork on that. And Santa Anita starts the 26th. And I hate to ask, but it might be helpful if we could have a special meeting in between now and then so we could briefly just approve that. I understand we need to get paperwork in to do that first, but it would be, otherwise we have to wait till January 12th. And it took us a little while, and it was a bit of a complicated negotiation, but I think that's, it kind of not following the theme of this meeting. That's some good news. So that's really all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Author. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Please work with the department, and we'll do what we can to approve the signals in the right amount of time.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. I see some hands raised, but I'm going to go down the list unless American Greyhound Racing is available at this time. Okay. County Fairs. Rillito Park.
Chairman, members of the commission, this is Mike Weiss on behalf of Rillito Park. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Weiss. Please proceed.
No, thank you. I was meaning to talk when you approved our dates, and I had lost connection. That's why I was checking. I'll try and keep this quick, but thank you very much for approving the dates. I want to remind people that the Rillito Park Foundation is a 501c3 not-for-profit foundation, and we are excited about these 18 dates. As part of that request, we included our fair dates and have local approvals in place. There is a little bit of a special air of excitement about this upcoming season. Horsemen, employees, and especially students that are ready to learn everything from the racing office management and even a new young announcer that wants to get his feet wet are anxious to be part of the racing family. What makes this season so special is this is our 80th year. I mean, how many tracks can say that you have an 80-year anniversary and we're the birthplace of quarter horse racing? So we're going to be taking some, initiating more safety initiatives, have some marketing fun and student involvement, and we are truly looking forward to this historic season. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. All right, Turf Paradise.
Thank you, Commissioner. The commission certainly has its plate full today, so I'm going to be really brief. With respect, I would recommend to the commission, if all possible, that before you call us all together for a meeting, that you conduct your own independent investigation. Either do it through the auspices of ADOR or through some other outfit so that you can get firsthand knowledge of the topics that have been brought to light today. You can see how things can get misreported. For example, there was not a delay of 60 minutes between races today following the breakdown in the second race. There was a delay of 5. So I think it's absolutely essential for the commissioners to conduct their own investigation, ask your own questions, draw your own conclusions before you bring us all together. There's always value in that, but I would hope you would have a chance to ask the questions that you brought forth today, but also that I sense you have yet to answer or yet to ask, and you deserve to have independent answers. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other permittees that are available to speak or, okay, hearing none, we'll move to the Industry Stakeholder Association updates. Arizona Counties Racing Association. Arizona Quarter Horse Racing Association.
Yes, Commissioner or Co-Commissioner, this is Lloyd Yost, Arizona Quarter Racing Association. I think it's been discussed today that we need to do something that we've done in the past instead of kicking the can down the road for the last 20 years. We need to get our heads together and make something happen. I appreciate your time and thank you so much for all your hard work, and I hope everything works out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Arizona Thoroughbreds Breeders Association. HBPA.
Yes, Co-Chairman Olson, Leroy Guessman, HPPA. First, I want to apologize on the 60-minute comment. It obviously isn't 60 minutes. I just had some frantic horse owners in my office telling me their side of the story. Anyway, there was equipment problems. I will investigate and report back what they may be later once the meeting's over and I can get up to the track. I do want to address one other thing. First of all, I want to say that Dr. Sugale is an excellent employee for the state. She does a tremendous job over and above the call of duty, in my opinion. However, she is one person, and she is doing the work that 4 state veterinarians do at Prairie Meadows. Now, for 3 years, the Arizona HBPA has lobbied the Arizona legislation, to get extra money in the budget for the department to hire extra veterinarians. Finally, last year, we were successful in our lobbying and we got extra money in the budget. So as of July 1st, there was extra money there to hire extra veterinarians. It is now almost January 1st, 6 months later, and we still have no extra veterinarians. The problem that is arising is Dr. Gale is doing all pre-race inspections. And we've been running 9 and 10 races a day, trying to make up the races we lost because of all the cancellations. That can be as many as 100 horses in one day. And she's got basically 5 hours to do those inspections. And it's not enough time for one person to do all that work. So therefore, some horses aren't being pre-race inspected. Some horses are being skipped. And now with the claiming rule been disvoided again, and we don't have a claiming rule again, it even makes it more dangerous for the horses that are going up there and the people making claims. So I would like to get some kind of expectation or timeline on when we might be able to expect a second and third veterinarian to help Dr. Gale. Anyway, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the Jockeys Guild.
Well, I just like to work with Turf Paradise and the powers that be to work to making things safer for riders there at all costs. When I think about the as far as having more, like a second horse ambulance or an additional tractor or whatever it takes, so they don't have the delays because of lack of equipment or whatever it takes to make things safer. I'd like the Jockeys Guild to be part of it, working with these management and the horsemen to make things safer there at Turf Paradise. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any permittees or stakeholder associations that I have missed at this point or couldn't get off mute before? All right. With that, I think we'll move back to the agenda items we skipped over previously.
Hello, this is Steve Wood. I had some questions for Mr. Hutton.
Mr. Wood, as to what agenda item are you referring to?
Track safety, Mr. Hutton, Mr. Bob Hutton, I think, had some questions for me, and the phone, I was trying to answer, but it wouldn't work. I wasn't able to get through.
Understood. Okay, well, Mr. Wood, we have moved agenda items since then.
Okay.
But we do invite you to speak at the when we speak on this at the next meetings, and submit written materials as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. Okay, so moving to agenda item B1, Sims versus Sims, and Sims versus Arizona Racing Commission regarding a racing license for Ronald A. Sims. I believe we have an update from our attorneys on this matter. Is the intention to go into executive session for the update, or and for legal advice on the matter, if somebody could unmute themselves to advise?
Good afternoon, Commissioner Olson. This is Camila Alarcon from Gamage and Burnham. I am ready to update the commission on the status of the case, and it is probably best to do so in executive session.
Thank you, Ms. Alarcon. All right, then I'll make a motion to move into executive session to seek legal advice on agenda item B1.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Vice Chair Olson, a second by Commissioner York to move into executive session on item B1. I will call the roll. Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
French Contreras.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes. The time is 10:43 and we will enter into executive session.
Commissioner Olson, I have a question. Is this the end of the horse issues other than the Sims executive session? Should we stay on or get off? Hello.
Jerry, if you're still on, please sell this dump. Just end the misery for everyone in Arizona. Sell the dump.
Could you please identify yourself? This is Jerry Sims.
Ron Sims.
Are all commissioners back in attendance? I am seeing Commissioner French Contreras and Commissioner York. Or not Commissioner York. I'm not seeing Commissioner York. Are you in attendance, Commissioner York? There she is.
All right, Mr. Hartgraves, please call the roll.
Of course. Commissioner York? Commissioner York, are you in attendance? Looks like she still is loading in. Oh, there she is. Miss York, you are muted if you are trying to speak. Commissioner York, are you able to hear me or able to speak? If so, please confirm your attendance.
Okay, it looks like we have some technical difficulties. Please bear with us for a moment.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
I don't know what happened. I could see everything, but could not shut off my camera, could not turn my camera on or shut off my mute. Sorry.
No problem. All right, Mr. Hartgraves, if you could take the
Yes.
roll, that'd be great.
I will call the roll. Commissioner York,
Present.
Commissioner French Contreras,
I'm here.
and Vice Chair Olson.
Present.
Thank you. The time is 1:53 and we will resume open session.
Thank you. I'd like to request an update regarding the litigation to be provided to the public. Ms. Alarcon.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Vice Chair Olson, members of the commission. This is Camila Alarcon from Gamage and Burnham. I just have a quick update on the Sims v. Arizona Racing Commission case. We are currently at the Superior Court level, and we have fully briefed the remaining issue of whether the commission's decision is supported by substantial evidence. Oral argument on that will be held on Friday, January 13th of 2023. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you for the update. Are any of the hands currently raised related to this action item? Mr. Braddock, is that you trying to get our attention or no? Okay. Because I think they were all old, maybe for call to the public. So with that, I would like to make a motion to instruct our counsel to proceed as directed in executive session.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Vice Chair Olson and a second by Commissioner York. I will call the roll. Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
and Commissioner French Contreras.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is approved.
Okay, great. Moving to agenda item B2, joint stipulation to Arizona Racing Commission to stay directors July 26, 2022 ruling deeming Ronald A. Sims license application to be incomplete. This is an item for executive session. Is there any request to speak on this item? I believe there is. I think it's
Vice Chair Olson, I do have a Nathan Novak representing Mr. Sims signed up to speak.
wonderful. Mr. Novak, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and the Commissioners. As you would have just learned from your counsel, Ms. Alarcon, and as she just reported, currently pending in the Superior Court is Ron Sims' appeal of the notice of denial of his 2013 license application. Now, Ron has since applied for what we consider a renewal application pursuant to the statutory deadlines every year he had to since, which was 2015, 17, 19, 20, 21, and now 22. Beginning in 2017, Director Casillas deemed those applications incomplete because of the pendency both of the appeal of Ron's 2013 license and a civil case between Ron and Jerry and related entities. Essentially, the director, while not either denying or granting the application, has found that the court cases that are going on need to progress a little longer before he's going to make the determination one way or another. Ron has appealed that determination in 17, 19, 20, 21, and now in 2022, which is why I'm here. Now, each of those 4 previous appeals were stayed by this commission on stipulation between Ron and the department, so that the commission does not have to expend a lot of time and resources in determining something that may be mooted by future events, either in the civil case and or in the ongoing license appeal. It is for that reason that once again, the department and Ron have stipulated, and I'll just read it here. This is a stipulation entered by counsel for the Department of Gaming and for Ron, dated August 24th, 2022. Quote, the parties hereby stipulate and request the commission order that the instant appeal be stayed without any prejudice or waiver of the rights of the respective parties, at least up through and including the resolution of the license proceedings. That's the matter that you just heard about on agenda item B1, including, if applicable, any subsequent proceedings arising from any appeals. And I would respectfully request that the commission issue an order in accordance with that stipulation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Novak. Does anybody from the department wish to speak?
I don't know if Mr. Myers is here on behalf of the department. I do know in past years the department counsel has elected not to show up at the hearings, Madam Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from my commissioners? Or I see Director Casillas, anything from you?
Chairwoman Olson, Mr. Novak is correct. We have done this repeatedly and asked the commission to stay the matter pending resolution. As he stated, Mr. Myers is not available today. However, I did have communications with him and we did agree to do the joint stipulation.
Wonderful. Thank you for the update, Director. My fellow commissioners, any questions or requests to go to executive session?
No.
Vice Chair Olson, so am I to understand that our motion would be to accept the joint stipulation as it's been entered into by the parties?
Thank you, Commissioner French-Contreras. I would defer to our legal counsel on that. So if that's a question you have, maybe we can make a motion to go into executive session and discuss.
Sure, I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner French-Contreras and a second by Vice Chair Olson to enter into executive session. I will call the roll. Commissioner French-Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner or Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
and Commissioner York.
Yes.
Thank you. The time is 1:59 p.m. and we will enter into executive session. Perfect. It looks like we have a quorum. Would you like me to call roll, Vice Chair Olson?
Yes, sir.
Great. Commissioner York,
Here.
Commissioner French Contreras, Commissioner French Contreras, if you were muted, you may be muted. I did not hear you. Commissioner French Contreras, if you can hear me, it may be worth trying to exit and rejoin the meeting if you are having trouble unmuting your mic.
There we go. I got it. Thanks for your patience. I'm here.
Great. And Vice Chair Olson.
Present.
Thank you. The time is 2:11 and we're resuming open session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are any further comments or motions from my fellow commissioners?
Vice Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the stipulation as set forth in agenda item B2.
Great.
I'll second.
Oh,
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner French Contreras and Commissioner York. I will call the roll. Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Olson.
yes.
Thank you. That motion is approved.
Thank you. Moving to agenda item B3, the approval of 2023 Arizona Racing Commission meeting dates. I'll turn it over to the department first.
Thank you, Vice Chairwoman Olson. I did supply some race dates in your commission packet. Basically follows the same as we have been, second Thursday of every month.
Thank you, sir. I have some folks signed up to speak on this agenda item. The first person is Mr. Gore. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to bring up that today there is a number of people working on the backside of turf because it is a live race day, and many of them wanted to have opportunity to attend, to speak, but because it's a live race day, they are having to work. So I would, in the future, going next year, when you approve race dates, maybe consider making the second Thursday of every month just an automatic dark day, that there are no race dates approved for that. So everyone has a chance to attend and be heard. And also, years ago, the commission used to take, every once in a while, would take a meeting and hold it at one of the permittees. So like back in the day, they would have one at Tucson Greyhound Park, then they would go up to Arizona Downs, or then they'd go to Turf Paradise. Maybe put that in next year into a rotation to actually go to the facility and hold the meeting there, because the people on the backside, everyone involved, they are very important. They need to be heard from. They are more important voices than typically the people in this meeting. So I would just encourage that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. The next person on my request to speak is Mr. Nolan.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. I appreciate it. I'll be very brief. I'm looking at the Turf Paradise calendar now. During January, they race every Thursday. So if it could be moved, even your agenda has next meeting in January already scheduled. Please move it to any Friday where it's a non-race day in January. Secondly, February, if you could move it to Thursday, the 23rd, that's a non-race day, or any Friday in February. And March, April, May seem good. And tentatively, you haven't approved summer or fall dates. So maybe when you do those dates, you'll schedule a meeting on dark days at that time. But for January, February, that's a main concern at this time. Any Friday, during January, any Friday in February, or even Thursday, the 23rd of February. And that would coordinate with the calendar at Turf Paradise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. And I see that, Mr. Braddock, is this a new hand or is this an old hand? Old hand. Okay, sorry. Just want to make sure I wasn't skipping over you. Commissioner French Contreras, I think you had your hand up raised.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'd like to get the opinion of the tracks as to making our meeting day a dark day, if that's possible. And I appreciate the feelings of Mr. Nolan, but I will tell you I can't speak for the other commissioners, but my meeting dates, I always try and make myself available to special meetings, but my meeting dates have to be consistent throughout the year. There's a reason for that. I mean, this is a volunteer position. We all work as well. And I appreciate that everybody wants to be involved, but I think that a consistency in our meeting dates is vital to our own attendance, and it gives everyone predictability, knowing that that's when we're going to meet instead of bouncing it around. I would consider making that a dark day in the future if the tracks, if the tracks and those involved don't have a problem with that. But we have to stay consistent, and Fridays are just not going to work for anybody. There's just too many things that can happen.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner York, did you have a comment? Oh, you're on mute, Commissioner York.
So sorry. Is there a reason why in the past we have not done a schedule so that the meetings happen on a dark day?
I'll let someone from the department respond to that.
Yes, commissioners, this has always been proposed to the commission, and it's the commission's choosing of when they can meet, what's convenient for all of them to be able to get together on particular days of the month, so that these meetings can generally have a quorum so that we can get things done. So it's always been the commission's decision.
Okay, so there's no reason why we couldn't schedule these for next year on a dark day, at least through Turf's meet, because we know they're dark days.
That's correct. However, you would have to get coordination from all permittees. You know, if we're going to have year-round horse racing, which is the ultimate goal. You know, everybody's going to have different race dates, so it's a little difficult unless we can get full commitment from permittees in advance exactly what their hard line race dates will be.
Right, but as it stands right now, we could have approved through May because we know the dark days for Turf.
That's correct.
Okay.
Commissioner.
So I'm sorry, there's probably more people that want to speak, and then I'll speak again.
I think it was just Commissioner Contreras that has her hand raised still. So the floor's either of you may take the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I want to address the question regarding live meetings at the tracks. And I think that goes to a larger issue is I would encourage whenever possible, as soon as possible, that we could get back to live meetings, period. And I believe that and the COVID issue was the whole reason that the commission quit meeting in person at the tracks. But if we can get back into live meetings, and maybe the staff can give us an update on when that could happen, and then I would definitely entertain the idea of meeting at the various tracks for our commission meetings as well.
All right, I don't see any other hands. Is there any other comments from my fellow commissioners or a motion that somebody would like to make?
So if we wanted to look at doing, because I don't know what the dark dates are offhand, how do we proceed with this if everyone's in agreement that we should at least look at that? I don't, you have to guide me on how to proceed.
Can somebody from the department let us know and announce those for the record and for the commission?
The permittee can provide a calendar that indicates the dark days, and that if the permittee will send that into the department, we'll forward it to the commission so that you can look at those dark dates.
But Director, it's my understanding we would need to approve at least the January date today before we meet then, or is that?
You can do it however you like at this point. you can go ahead and approve for January, pending further review, for the remainder of the calendar year.
Vice Chair, could I make a motion?
Yes, you may.
I would make a motion that we accept the calendar as submitted on the second Thursday of every month for our standing commission meeting, special meetings to be held as needed. And in the future, we can look at those dates as being dark days for any of the tracks that might have a conflict with our meetings.
Commissioner, please. With respect to the commission, you are in call to the public. You cannot make a motion.
This is not call to the public. This is agenda item B3.
Then
I'm sorry. My apologies. We had to move back because of going out of order, but I do appreciate that. So there's a motion on the floor and a second. Mr. Hartgraves, can you?
Yes, apologies, I missed the second.
Oh, that was me.
Okay, yes, I have a motion by Commissioner French Contreras and a second by Commissioner Olson for item B3. I will call the roll. Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
and Commissioner York.
No.
Thank you. That motion passes 2-1. Thank you.
Okay, I believe that takes care of all of our action items. We will now move to agenda item D, call to the commission. D1, summary of current events affecting the Arizona Racing Commission for commission members or the director only. I'll open the floor to the commission members or the director at this time.
Yes, Chairwoman Olson, I'd like to, first of all, thank the permittees and the HBTA and Monarch for reaching out to one another and having open communication to finally come to terms to get the Monarch simulcast signal back into Arizona. I have not seen copies of all contracts and rates as of yet. I have only received verbal confirmation that there's a agreement by the parties. So once we receive all contracts and have done our review and prepare it for a special commission meeting, we will reach out to the commission to see if there's any particular dates that you may be available to possibly review and consider approval of the Monarch signal going forward. So I appreciate the fact that the permittees have finally come to terms and have been able to have open discussions and reach agreement on this matter. It's a matter that's been out of Arizona for several years. Our horse players, the wagering public has been very upset for quite a while. We've been receiving complaints left and right. So I thank you all for making this big move and the progress we have made with this.
Thank you, Director, and thanks to all those working together to get that done for the state. Commissioners, do you have a report? Commissioner York?
I don't have a report, but I have an agenda. I don't know if this is the right request, but I would like to address Mr. Gessman's statement that he made about the budget having approved dollars for extra veterinarians and what.
Sure.
How can we get?
Just, I want to make sure there's no other commissioner reports, and then we'll move to the agenda item for matters to be placed on the next.
My apologies.
Nope, no problem at all. It sounds like no other items or reports from commissioners, so we will move to item D2, and Commissioner York, the floor is yours to request the future agenda item.
Okay, I'd like to make a future agenda request to discuss the status on the additional funds for veterinarians and where we're at on that, getting them hired, what the situation is.
I can address that now, Commissioner York. The department has been in the process of the hiring of a new veterinarian and vet techs. And I just recently promoted an employee to safety steward. We have 2 qualified vet techs. We're going to make a selection on one of them. We have had 0 applicants for the veterinarian position. I have asked our HR department to repost the position and make it open until filled. We are reaching out to various organizations and entities to try to get some veterinarians interested. We're having a very, very difficult time getting any veterinarians that have any interest in working the horse racing industry at this point. I've asked Dr. Gale and Brian to look at the university out west to see when any of the folks would be coming due for graduation, so that maybe we can start courting a few people out there to get them interested into working for us full time. So it is in progress. We are working on it. And I understand the hardship that Dr. Gale is going through, and I applaud her for all the hard work she does. And, you know, it's not that we're sitting on our hands doing nothing. We are moving on it. We just have no takers at this point.
Okay, thank you, Director Casillas. Could you please just quickly review what the open recs are? Is there 1 full-time vet and 1 tech? I mean, how many recs are there total and what are they for?
Right now, it's 1 vet tech and 1 vet for the time being. And I believe we just hired a licensing tech also. And we're in the process of hiring another pari-mutuel accountant to help with the pari-mutuel duties and responsibilities. I've got another person coming on board, I believe, first part of January to fill the old Cassie Goodwin position that would be handling the commission meetings, would be the commission secretary and what have you. That person is coming due to retire from the city of Phoenix, I believe any time now, mid-December, and will be eligible to start at the first of the year.
Thank you.
Commissioner French Contreras.
Thank you, Vice Chair. How is the staffing in the Racing Commission office? Is that adequate, or are you still looking for staff there as well?
We're still looking for staff. As I mentioned, we're trying to fill the vacancies that I just stated, and and that will probably be the extent of the hiring. We do have some contractors that we hire annually as temp help, and we hire them as needed.
So you're getting the help that you need in-house in the office?
Well, if we're running short, I will pull staff from other sections to help the racing division. We've done that in the past. However, that's why I'm trying to fill full-time positions within the racing division to not pull staff from other responsibilities on the gaming side.
Okay, well, all your effort is really appreciated. I know it's a tough time right now.
Thank you for that.
Thank you all, and I'd echo that thanks. Thank you to Director and everyone that is working hard at the department. The one request I would have for the next agenda meeting would be to have a proposal from the department and potentially with the permittees on potential dates where we could visit the or hold our meetings at the racetracks and incorporate that as available. And with that, I think we've exhausted the D2 matter, and we can move to agenda item E, called the public.
Excuse me, Commissioner, may I address that last item you mentioned about holding commission meetings at the racetrack? I don't know that the racetracks are equipped to do these meetings. These are commission meetings, state government meetings. The track has no obligation to host that type of meeting at their facility. I don't know that they will have the equipment necessary to do it and get all the recordings and everything required for the state. So I hesitate to say, yeah, we're going to set up meetings at any track facility.
Sure.
That may be something difficult to do.
And I suppose maybe I could rephrase it as more of a request for an update to see if it's possible, and you can just update us with what your findings are.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you, Director. Moving to item E, call to the public. I've got quite a few people signed in, so I'm going to go through the names that I have on my list, and then if I have not called your name, please go ahead and raise your hand. Max will be putting up time. Everyone on the call to the public has 3 minutes. I'd like to begin with Mr. Ben Kenny.
Sure. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ben Kenny, Watch and Wager. I wanted just to introduce myself and who we are. We are a harness group and an ADW. We have submitted an ADW application and a harness application to you. Just a little background. Our harness meet is out of California. We've raced up there for 10 years. We race 46 days a year, November to April, and it's Friday and Sunday evening. As for the ADW is out of Kentucky and out of San Francisco. They're licensed in California, New York, Minnesota, Kentucky, etc. We have put the application through. We are very, very excited for the possibility of bringing harness racing back to Arizona after 60 years. It is a 9-day meet. It's not a big meet, but it is 9 days. And in the harness world, it's all a buzz about the possibility, like I said, of coming back to Arizona. We realize that this is a unique application, and we look forward to working with staff and commission as any questions and issues arise. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Is Mr. LaCour, is he with you, or
He is not. He will not be speaking today.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Miss Cynthia George, are you present?
Did you call Cynthia George?
I did.
If she's not here, she asked me to speak on her behalf, if that's okay with the chair.
Well, Mr. Gray, you are next on my list, so please proceed.
Okay, thank you. And also I would like to reserve time for myself, but I will, and please bear with me. I'm just reading somebody else's write-up, so I haven't read it or practiced it. Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Cynthia George, and I am a trainer at Turf Paradise. I'm here today to talk about the track safety and the repercussions from having an unsafe racing surface. I'm currently the administrator of a Facebook page supporting Arizona racing. After years of moderation, I have noticed an excessive amount of concern about the racing surface currently at Turf Paradise. I gallop some of my own horses and pony during the races and have personally felt the track to be too deep and uneven. The comments on my racing board show that the same concerns fellow horsemen have. I understand that with a deeper, softer track, our fatality rates have come down. However, fatality rates are not an accurate representation of how safe a track is. I posted a poll on my Facebook page asking horsemen a basic yes or no answer on conditions of the racing surface. 97% of the 146 votes from horsemen felt that the track has not been maintained well and has not been safe and fair racing surface. I have reached out to vets that have provided services to the AZ trainers, and the vets that have responded have reports of approximately 10 diagnosed soft tissue issues and more than 4 reported sesamoid fractures. In addition to the other various injuries, it was reported that vets are treating muscle soreness as well as horses tying up at a higher numbers than previously experienced at other tracks. I want to state that these numbers are only an indicator of current injuries that did not result in euthanasia because not all participating vets wanted to contribute to the information. As a horseman that believes in horse racing having a full life after racing, I have spoken with different people that help find horses their next career. Currently, the Facebook group Retiring Racehorses of Southwest has many Turf Paradise horses available, 3 of which have fractured sesamoids and will need special care so that they can be rehabilitated properly. Unfortunately, it is not easy as placed as year-round, as there's many horses already in these facilities and there is just no room for them. To put this into perspective, I researched the statistics posted by the USDA, and this is regards to horses that aren't able to get out. She did the research on with the USDA. As of December 8th this year, they have recorded 15,290 horses crossing the border into Mexico for slaughter. While that number is lower than previous years, after the effects of COVID, current numbers show the rate increasing. In the week ending 11/26, it was reported that 181 horses crossed the border for slaughter, and the very next week, the number jumped to 303. While these numbers include all types of
Apologies,
horses.
Mr. Garay, Vice Chair Olson, just letting you know 3 minutes has expired.
Can I have 1 minute of my time to finish Ms. George's statement?
Yes, Mr. Gray, you have 3 more minutes. You can use it as you wish.
Oh, okay, thank you, ma'am. Basically, the injuries to the horses need to really be looked at because it causes problems down the road. It's with the rehoming of these horses. If the facilities are filled up, the horses currently getting injured have nowhere to go. So I just implore the commission to really look into this. And thank you for that. And hopefully you realize my name is really not Cynthia George. I was just speaking on her behalf. With that said, while you guys were in executive session, the owner of the horse that died today gave me a call, just in all tears. And I want to implore each one of you, get your badge and go back to turf unannounced, visit with these people. They are good men and women, hardworking people that have a story to tell you. They will tell you the truth. They will tell you what is really going on. They will help you and guide you. So the next commission meetings, when we're talking safety, you know where the problem actually lies. You know what to do. With that said, I also just want to mention, while we don't have greyhound racing here in Arizona, we still have the OTBs with the greyhound racing. And we did have greyhound racing for a number of years in Arizona. While we don't have live racing, we still have a very active greyhound adoption programs going on. And several years ago, I made a comment that we needed to start working on bringing in greyhounds from other countries that had racing. I'm happy to report that the United States has brought in 740 Irish racing greyhounds, 6 of them, which just came to Arizona last week. And today, thanks to a meeting I had several years ago at Turf Paradise with governmental officials from Australia, we have 6 greyhounds from Australia, retired racing greyhounds, on their way to Arizona for their next home or their next job as pets in somebody's home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. All right, Mr. Nolan.
Okay, I'm ready, and thank you. First, for you commissioners, thank you for your service. This is not easy. You have taken a position of a commission past that is in the Supreme Court. You have to go in executive session. There's so many debacles with previous commissions that you are being asked to all of a sudden encompass all these problems and help correct. And I thank you for your service. I appreciate that you aren't being paid, so you really must be wanting to help and serve. With that said, I'll move forward. This monarch issue, monarch, they are doing your job. They're going to let you dictate what signals come and go. This is an unlicensed entity providing a service. Director Casillas has allowed it to happen. Look at the state of New Hampshire. They required it to be licensed. And when they, anyhow, monarch, license, providing service, look at the statutes. Moving forward, I would like to ask that you clarify that when you hold a license, whether it be Mr. Sims or me, is that even if he thinks it's a private business, this is a regulated business. He holds a license with rules and regulations that must be accountable to all who hold those licenses. He can't just do at his whim and forget about these regulations like he tried to portray earlier. With that said, I'm going to be very bold and tell you how this all came about. Bold, this is your problem. This is your previous commissions. This is where it lands. Please allow me to finish. I did not author this. This came from an agency. Although the department recommended the application be denied, the Racing Commission approved a 3-year permit without conditions or requirements for problems to be rectified. Now I'll read the paragraph. The department concluded that Jerry Sims, Turf Paradise owner, is unfit to receive new renewal application based on his inappropriate and corrupt personal and business history. That Sims established a dangerous pattern of disregard for direct Department of Racing regulatory authority. That Sims placed horsemen, racehorses, jockeys, other licensees, department employees at physical risk by ignoring the timely and complete correction of health and safety, property, and operational problems. The Sims continuously ignored and neglected stakeholders' needs. That Sims consistently failed to comply with regulatory requirements of other state and local jurisdictions. That Sims failed to act responsibly during the current permit term. That Sims failed to comply with permit background investigation statutory requirements. And that Sims revealed a personal relationship with the Racing Commission chair that creates an impression of impropriety. Again, although the department recommended the application be denied, the commission approved a 3-year permit without problems to be rectified. That was in an excerpt from the Auditor General to the legislature in 2007. If you'd like to know, so you can verify my statement, I'll finish. The performance audit and sunset review, Arizona Department of Racing sunset review, Arizona Racing Commission by the Auditor General. Again, the date, 2007, filed and was before the Arizona legislature. That's where the problems started. Please keep trying to clean it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. All right, Dr. Mandy Holland, I think that you still have your hand up.
Hello. I would just like an opportunity to speak on behalf of Turf Paradise veterinarians that work the backside. Currently this year, I am providing third-party Lasix to all horses that race. But I've also been a treating veterinarian on the backside for 17 years at Turf Paradise. One of the problems that I have, and one of the things that I would like to see better happen, because I took an oath when I graduated from veterinary school to do no harm to animals, one of the things that I have a problem with is I have to go out and administer Lasix to race day horses in the mornings on a time schedule that is set forth by the commission because of medication rules. However, there has been many times, and I know that Mother Nature can be a wicked beast, but on days when turf management is trying to decide if they're going to run or not, it would be convenient, appropriate, appreciative, and absolutely necessary to alert me as the veterinarian administering a medication to a horse for race day that would not need it if it's going to be known that we are canceling. On many days, I have administered medication to horses for racing that ultimately did not need the medication because the races were ultimately canceled. This puts an undue burden on horse owners as well as a horse that does not need to receive an additional treatment for something that is not a problem. And so with that, I would like the commission to make sure that Turf Paradise is communicating with us in the regulatory positions better so that we don't inadvertently treat horses unnecessarily.
Thank you, Dr. Holland. Okay. Are there any other calls to the public that I may have missed? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to agenda item F, announcements. The next regularly scheduled commission meeting will be at 10 a.m. on Thursday, January 12th, 2022 at 100 North 15th Avenue, Suite 202, Phoenix, Arizona, or via Google Meet, and is subject to change based on quorum. For current information, please visit our website. And with that, I will hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Vice Chair, before we do that, would it be too late for me to ask the staff to put an agenda item on our next meeting or two regarding what Dr. Holland just reported with timing on LASIK administration and the race cancellations.
If the Assistant Attorney General is okay with us moving back to that agenda item, I don't see why we can't.
Okay, otherwise I could bring it up at the next meeting.
We can, okay, hearing no objection, we can move back to item D2 and please, Commissioner, go ahead and make your request.
Thank you. If the staff of the Racing Commission, if we could put an action item on the next agenda to look at veterinarians, the race cancellations on any of the tracks as it pertains to timing for the veterinarians administering medication or other care to the racehorses.
We can put it on the agenda.
Thank you, sir.
All right, moving to agenda item G, I'll hear a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner French Contreras and a second by Commissioner York. I will call roll. Commissioner French Contreras.
Yes.
Commissioner York.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. The time is 2:46 and this meeting is adjourned.